Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging system. 4 8.
It automatically silence calls that don't like from numbers that I don't have saved.
Yeah, that was weird. That was unexpected. How are you doing?
Good. I'm trying not to fall asleep.
Yeah. So, what are you up to today?
Wait, hold on. I gotta put you on speaker.
All right. Is there anyone else there?
No, it's just me.
Okay. So, just so you know, I'm recording this so that I could transcribe it later.
Cool.
And your interview will be in the August 1st edition. And then sometime shortly after that month, I will put it up on the YouTube channel.
Awesome.
So what are you doing right now, right this second?
Right now, I'm scrolling through Indeed like a fiend, desperately looking for another part-time job because I'm a broke artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even tell you the amount of jobs I've applied for in the last month.
Oh, Jesus. Are you looking for anything particular?
Just something bullshit, something I don't have to worry about, that the stress doesn't follow me home, and that's pretty non-committal. I already have a part-time job, but it's like so part-time that it's like I need a little more. It's like my boss will ask me if I want to come to work. That's how part-time my job is.
I got you. So are you like home for the summer or something? Or how's that working? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been home from Massachusetts in since late May, I think.
Speaking of which, where are you?
I live in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Good old Pencil, Jersey, actually.
All right. And is that a lifelong thing?
That I've grown up here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in my home childhood bedroom.
Oh,
my
wow.
family's house. Yeah.
So you were like stationed in one place most of your childhood.
Yeah. I grew up here in Easton. My family is probably going to die here, so.
I guess that's cool. I guess in some way,
I hope I don't. I mean, I plan on leaving, but
Well, you get out enough that there's a good odds if you just drop dead, it won't be there.
Yeah. Pretty likely it would be like a car accident or something.
Yeah, that's statistically, or like heart attack or something like that. But you'd be out at some restaurant or something. But so are you? Is your background that you're Italian?
Yes, I am Italian. Actually, specifically, I'm Sicilian.
Okay, I thought so.
Do I look it?
Kind of. I also have an Italian background, and I kind of got that vibe.
Paisano.
So, what do you go to school for?
That's a really hard question to answer, actually. My school does not have majors. It's an open curriculum, so I can just kind of take whatever I want. But I guess I would say like the general focus of my studies are like kind of interdisciplinary multimedia art and experimental music, I guess. I take classes on like philosophy, politics, like sociology, things like that too. That all kind of goes into the arts. But yeah, in general, it's kind of focused on art, I guess.
And what school is that?
Hampshire College up in Amherst, Massachusetts. It's a cool place, actually. It's part of the 5 colleges, so I can take classes at UMass, Amherst, Smith, and Mount Holyoke as well.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I get my degree from Hampshire, but I most of my classes are not at Hampshire.
Okay, so you're as a child, you were in Eastern Pennsylvania.
Yeah, born and raised.
All right, and are you from a creative family? Do your parents do anything? Nope.
My family is very working class, like stereotypical kind of like just comes home and watches TV and eats dinner kind of people. Like my mom wanted to be a mom when she was a teenager. That was her whole life. My dad has always just been working. He just lives off disability now that he doesn't really do anything. My parents kind of really never had hobbies. My mom gardens, but there's not really a lot of interest or anything going on here. I'm pretty much the only one who has like a creative mind or life or anything like that.
Gardening's cool. Well, So, what influence intersected with your life that kind of started you down that path?
Like
Was there a person, maybe a teacher, maybe an older student or something?
I think I just always looked up to a lot of artists, and I thought it just seemed like really amazing. And like, I can't really remember. I know like when I was in middle school, I liked a lot of fiction, and I would draw like a lot of fan art kind of stuff. Not the most interesting way to begin, but like, I always loved taking art classes. I was really good at it. And then eventually that changed. Like my taste in art, because you're like an artist and everyone's like, oh, you should do graphic design, you should make tattoos, you should do this, you should go to this school or whatever.
Right.
And I did it for a while, and I was like, this fucking blows. This is all just like industry pipeline shit. Like, what is the point of any of this? And then psychedelics happened, and then I had a different perspective.
What
but,
age? What age did your mind get expanded?
I think I was 19. This was coming, I think it was 19, or maybe it was 2019. I feel like it was either 19 or 21. I don't know. I was born in 98. In my head, I just conflate 19 and 2019 is the same year for some reason. But no, wait a second. It had to be 2019, however old I was then, which is probably like 20-ish, 21 maybe, because I remember I saw this band, Will Wood and the Tapeworms. It's this experimental rock band at someone's basement in my neighborhood. It was like a friend's house. And I always got invited to these shows, and I never went. And this was the first time this band was playing, and someone else was chatting my ear off, like, you got to go to this one. And at this point, I was just really like depressed. I didn't do anything or go out and see my friends. And so I was like, you know what? Like, my plans this weekend got fucked, so I'll come to the show. And like, it was like, I don't know, blew my mind. And his art was like, he was selling his art and prints and stuff like that. And like, his whole aesthetic was like very psychedelic, and like all the lyrics are like very influenced by that. And I was like, I'm like 21, and I'm like, what is this? Like, what? Like, I'm like, I don't know. I always felt like some kind of like creative block in my mind. Like, they was just like, I just saw something in his mind where I was like, okay, this like makes you like, I don't know, you're able to access something that I just haven't been able to access before. And so that is what inspired me to start experimenting with psychedelics. So yeah, that was 2018. I believe I was like 20. Yeah, there's your answer.
I'm familiar with that band. I think we've reviewed them before in issues quite a while ago. Really? But yeah, pre-COVID. But yeah, definitely. Also, Declan, the my sort of backup singer in Bitter Ink, really likes that band a lot.
Oh, awesome.
So without incriminating anyone, how did you gain access to those things?
Oh, I believe. Let me think. I will not name her name, but there was a big dealer around my area who sold all kinds of things. She's very well known. I've hung out with a lot of people that smoke weed. I smoke weed, and so everyone usually bought from her, I think. Mm-hmm. But she sold a lot of other things as well, and so I got in contact with her, and I'm pretty sure she's the first person I got that stuff from. Actually, I might not have been the one who reached her. I took it for the first with another friend who got it, and then I think I got in contact with her.
I was gonna say it's pretty damn adventurous to just concoct the idea on your own and go out and find it. I've never usually there's some kind of friendly or familial connection involved in that.
Oh yeah, I think like weed and psychedelics go together like cookies and milk. All my friends, some of them dabbled in other things as well.
Got you. So then you exposed yourself to yourself, and
exactly.
How did you develop creatively from there?
So I think my first time tripping, well, I took a lot. I think I took like 400 micrograms, and I hung out with a friend, and it was mostly just kind of like watching movies. But I remember she had this chalkboard in her room that was like, it had this like things written, like this big chalkboard that had all this like stuff written on it. And I took it off the wall, and I just took the chalk, and I just remember like kind of like connecting like the letters in like different ways, and like, I don't know, it turned into this weird kind of like map. And kind of like the first like psychedelic automatic surrealist art I've ever made. Just remember looking at it and like while I was doing it, I just felt like it kind of rewired the way I like understood art, and it made total sense to me. And of course, the next day it's total nonsense, but after that, I was like, there's something in here.
Ah,
And so I just got really, really fascinated and fixated on it as like kind of like a creative tool. And so pretty much like all of my trips have been kind of like centered around that in some way.
got you. And do you exclusively work on psychedelics, or do you also work at a more, maybe on other drugs or in a more sober state of mind?
Oh no, I work sober all the time. It's not always as interesting, but there was a period of time where like for months I was microdosing mushrooms. I would take about like a quarter of a gram every 3 days, and it was like medicine to me. It was like reversing my depression, and it was also very, very good for creative output. I would just sit and draw for like hours and hours every day, or like even if I took acid, I would just sit and draw for like hours and like listen to music. And actually, I drew so much that I hurt myself. But I was like, oh shit, I guess you can't just keep doing this forever and ever and ever without like paying attention to like your body. But yeah, like so I did that for a while, and for a while when I was microdosing, I would take like a little bit more, like maybe like a third of a gram, and like smoke a lot of like really strong sativa to the point I was getting visuals. And I burnt out from that after a while because of like anxiety, trauma, things like that. But I love to create on psychedelics more than anything. Weed is nice sometimes. I like to smoke weed and get creative. It helps me like kind of stay focused. I have a hard time starting things, and then when I ingest something else, it's like, oh, everything's fun, and you can enjoy yourself, because otherwise I'll just like stare at the ceiling for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
But I've gotten better at trying to work sober.
Got you. When I was much younger, I was an enormous pothead, and I did eventually get to the point where I could hallucinate from it, but it's kind of I don't know, it becomes a little too severe at that point.
Yeah.
That's what I found.
Yeah, there's kind of a saturation point, I feel like.
Yeah, like weed has like the first time I got high, like really high, like actually high. Like I had smoked from a joint and thought I was high, but like the first time I got high, I was like, well, this is just the greatest thing in the entire world. Like this is just like I'm like, I want to orient my entire life towards this fucking thing. And then and after doing that for a year or two, eventually it kind of caught up with me, and it was like not the same. It was getting kind of severe for me. Did you have that experience?
Yeah, that kind of happened to me too for a while. Like, I mean, I was also experiencing a lot of like intense like health problems, and so like the weed would just kind of like induce like anxiety. I got like a panic attack once or twice, and like it was just, I don't know, it just didn't feel as good anymore. And like so I took a break for a long time, like for the most part, like nothing really ingesting anything, just trying to sort my nervous system out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been kind of dabbling again in the last year or so. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard, like, because it feels almost like a karmic cycle with weed, where it's like it feels so good, and then after a while you're like, never mind. Like, I don't understand how this ever felt good. And then recently I've been having a lot more fun experiences while stoned. I think it has a lot to do with the people I'm with and like what I'm doing or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Yeah, that's important. But yeah, it's weird. It's kind of finicky after a while. You don't think it's gonna happen when you like first start out ingesting anything.
Yeah, it's not necessarily something you want to be alone with all the time.
Yeah.
And also, like when I got really oversaturated with it, I was just in my brother's trailer, and we were just watching like B-horror movies from the 80s, like every day, just completely stoned out of our head on indica. And I was like, that turned into a bad mood pretty quick.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, so I originally met you through your performances with Crab Cult.
Ah, yes.
So tell me how you got involved with that project.
Oh, that's always a fun story. So there was a time in my life where I think this was shortly after I started experimenting with psychedelics. This was like probably when I was like 21, 22-ish, and like I don't know, it was a time in my life I was at like I ended up in this weird entanglement with some guy that should not have been hanging around. And I like, after I snapped out of all that, I was like, wait a second, this is just some kind of weird, like, escapist thing my mind is doing. And I was like, I'm not addressing the real problems in my life. I need a life. And I was like, like, I realized it was kind of like, like that, like, early 20s crisis I feel like a lot of people go through, where I'm like, okay, so I need to have something I'm doing, and I need to get out of my house, and I need to, like, be an adult and, like, have a thing. And I just, like, didn't have that. And I was like, I just didn't quite know exactly what I wanted. I'd been out of school for like 2 to 3 years, and like I was just disillusioned with it. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do like art or whatever. Like, I don't want to do it like a career way. And I always wanted to do music. That was always kind of a thing, but I always just felt too insecure. Like, it was too hard. Like, the way they teach music, like,
Yeah.
it just, like, sucks. Like, I hate conventional, like, music education. It's like bad. I don't know. I took music classes at college and, like, when I was in high school, and it just never clicked. Never stuck with me. I never felt like it was something I could continue doing. It was always very, like, gate kept. And so around that time, I was like, so I need something else, and I need to meet new people. And so I hopped on Tinder, like many people do, and swiped for maybe a couple minutes until I came across this, like, total freak who looked awesome. And, like, all this, like, I don't know, he said something like about, like, demonetizing the eschaton, like, looking for, like, freaks to join his, like, world traveling crab band or whatever. And, like, he just looked like crazy. Like, all of his pictures were like him, like, far away standing on a roof in basketball shorts, like, in the woods, like, type things, or like his, like, psychedelic art. And, like, the art is kind of what got me. And I was like, oh, okay, we're like mind twins or something. And I was like, this person, I need to be friends with their friends. So I gave him a super like, and then we matched, and then we were like, we should take acid together. And I was like, word. And then so, like, a month or two later, we took acid together at his moldy little house in New Jersey, and we listened to Clara Crocodilo by Rigo Barnaby and some no wave albums, and Weasels Rip My Flesh by the Mothers of Invention. And he told me about his band, and we just doodled for like hours. And I was like, okay, so I have to join your band, and we're gonna be best friends, and I'm gonna be best friends with all of your friends. And then, like, a month later, I got to jam with everyone. He was, like, sick for a while, so
Yeah.
it's a bit of a delay in being able to, like, make music. But yeah, we went to the Meat Locker. I jammed with everyone. We did this a couple times, and then I decided to buy myself a synthesizer and eventually a saxophone. That was like about a year later. But yeah, all because of Tinder.
So you have a saxophone and a synthesizer?
Yep, I got my semi-modular Behringer Neutron with an Arturia keystep MIDI controller, and I have an alto and a tenor sax, and I have some other instruments I don't ever really use, like an acoustic guitar, an electric one that doesn't work, a shitty, like, beginner keyboard, a balalaika, a ukulele, 2 violins, and, like, a Chinese eru. I don't know how to pronounce that one, but I got that one at a flea market.
So is that your main musical project?
Cancer Cult right now, yeah.
Yeah.
I have themes for solo stuff that I've been wanting to work on over the summer, and I have a couple people that want to do collabs with me. So I have a friend who wants to make an album with me, and someone else who wanted to collab, some other things, little loose ends like that. But my big focus outside of Cancer Cult right now is trying to do, like, solo work.
Solo work musically?
Yeah, I want to be able to, like, produce, like, at least one album of my own, and also have, like, come up with some sort of, like, performance act that I can do by myself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but I need to just sit down and play toys, you know?
So have you learned or have you taken any music classes at college?
Not quite yet. I'm trying to actually, hold on. I've taken, like, classes that are about music in, like, a cultural sense.
Yeah.
And, like, political sense. But actually next semester, oh my God, I've been, like, begging and, like, negotiating this teacher to get in her class. It's a composition class. It's 100 level, but for some reason there's 2 prereqs for it. You got to have 2, like, a first and second level, like, music theory class. And I've only taken 1, but I'm going to do my best to teach myself over the summer and hope that I can pass the entrance exam for either the prereq, which will then become a co-req, and I'll take both of them at the same time, or maybe I can pass both entrance exams and get into just the composition class, which would be nice because then I only have to take 1, and I can take something else that would fill that time slot instead. But yeah, I decided to buckle down and do the work to learn a little bit. I wanted to anyways. I was never really like truly against it. It was always just kind of something that was like, and I felt was inaccessible, or like, held as like the only way to do music. Like you have to go this route. And I prefer to learn about things like the unconventional way. And then, just because I'm a nerd, I want to learn every way. So I'll get to it eventually, usually.
So like, what did you learn in your music theory class? Was it like a standard music theory class where it's sort of like, 1 chords and 5 chords and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, the class I took at community college was kind of like, okay, this is like how you read music. This is the bass and the treble. Like these are the scales. These are like what the intervals are, and then they try to make you practice them and
yeah,
things like that. And then usually the second level is like where they get into like harmonic theory.
Oh, okay.
Which yeah, and like probably modes and things like that. And I have like a vague knowledge of some music theory. Like I like know the basics, but for me it's mostly just like I don't remember the scales, or I can't hear intervals as well. So it's kind of like I want to improve those skills.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I subscribe to the idea that art is benefits from limitation, self-imposed limitation. So, like, I think that's what the point of a scale is. Just like stick to this, but infinitely create within this. And
100%.
Cool. So, gosh, I guess. So did you mostly develop as an artist like after high school?
Yeah, actually, it's been probably like the last few years. How old am I? I just turned 26. What am I talking about? I'm probably in the last like 4 years. It probably took off the most since I met John, my bandmate / leader, whatever. We don't believe in leaders, but he is band leader. It's like I was doing some stuff before then with my friend who we would trip all the time and make like collages and draw together. But I feel like my mind really took off like after that is when I started involving myself in all sorts of things, doing like sculptures and music and all kinds of other shit, and now sewing and fashion.
Okay, you're making your own clothes?
Yeah, so I'm working on. It's been kind of like one of my infinite summer goals. Was I got a sewing machine, and now I want to make weird ass clothing because I'm like a hoarder. Like honestly, but all of my stuff is like things that I want to use for art. So that's kind of like my justification for having an endless amount of things. And I'm like, I actually need to sit down and use this stuff. And so a lot of it is clothing. And, my weight has fluctuated a lot over the years, so I've just kind of held on to a lot of things. But some things I've looked at and I'm like, yeah, I'll just change this later, or I'll use this for something, like this is a good fabric, and then I get attached to stuff and I just hold on to things. But now I'm actually digging into the endless piles of stuff and trying to piece them together into new things. I don't know. Some of it I'll probably wear. Some of it I might try to sell.
Gotcha.
I'm not very good at selling art of any kind. I've never been able to do that.
Yeah, my room is like a series of unfinished projects. It's just like of all kinds. I got a garden in one corner. I got these bicycle frames that I'm eventually gonna use a grinder and cut in half to turn into a camper for my bicycle, and like,
oh shit.
But I'm just like, I'm always working on something, because I'm not the sort of person that enjoys just sitting there and not working on something,
Yeah.
I get depressed when I do that.
Yeah, that's kind of what happens. And then it's like a feedback loop where I'm sitting there doing nothing, and it's like I don't want to do nothing, and I'm just thinking of all the things I could do, but then not doing any of them. And I'm just like, damn, I suck so much. Like I could be doing something right now. Why don't I do things? And then it just keeps you sitting there. But I don't know. I had like a day, like on my birthday, like a week ago, I was like, I'm just gonna like have a day where I just reconnect with myself, and I'm just gonna focus all of my thought energy on the things I want to do, and I'm gonna write them all down and like come up with some new like habits, and just like make myself do things when I have free time instead of just like spacing out and thinking about things that I want to do. So I finally finished that collage that I posted.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's literally been on my desk for 3 years under a giant piece of paper, and every single time I would go to fix it or like put it together, I would get it the way I wanted it, and I'd be like, whew, okay, I'll glue this down later because that's too much. And then it would just get fucked up again. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do other things, but I have to do that first. That's like that's like the first step to me doing anything. I have to finish that because it's been 3 years and that's way too long. And I know, I knew my sewing machine would be the next thing that would sit in the corner and I would stare at it every day. And so I was like, well, that'll be next. If I can prove to myself that I can teach myself how to use a sewing machine and make one thing, then I can try a different project.
I mean, that's cool. That's cool as fuck, though, the sewing idea. That's something I always wanted to get into, but I've never actually done because you display it on yourself. You know, like,
wearable art.
You don't have to convince anyone else to look at it. Like you put it on, and that's their fault. Now they have to look at it because you're there.
Exactly. It's so fun. It's kind of like sculpture to me. I don't know.
It is, yeah. It's kinetic sculpture.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, let's talk musical interests and influences. Were there any particular bands or projects that caught your attention at an early age?
I knew this question was going to come, and I was dreading it because I never know how to answer this. So at an early age, honestly, I was a weird kid, but like I was not exposed to anything that weird. So for a long time, I was into kind of like, I guess what was like conventionally considered a little weird, like alternative music. Like, I don't think I really listened to music that much until like high school. Like, I don't know.
That's
family listened. Yeah. My family listened to mostly like kind of like hair metal shit, but like the same songs over and over again, like whatever's on the radio. Like even to this day, like they hang out outside, like you just hear like Poison or some shit like that, like Guns N' Roses. And I'm like, you guys ever get tired of this? But like you said, so for a while, I guess when I was a kid, I was like, okay, like that's my musical identity because that's what I hear all the time. But then I was like, I don't actually like this. And then someone introduced me to like My Chemical Romance. And I was like, these guys know what's going on. And so I that was like kind of like my big thing. And it was like, but then like even around then, like, you know, people were like, oh, you like MCR, like you like emo music, you like this, and they'd show me all kinds of shit that I just like didn't fuck with. And I'm like, they don't do it the same. Like nobody does it the same as them. Like there's no theatrics, there's no drama. Like where's the like I saw 9/11 and now I'm a vampire. Like there's no one else does it like that. like and so that just hit for me for a while. Honestly, I used to really like Panic at the Disco too. Like they were just a really like I liked that pop music. Like it was just really, like intricate to me, and I love the details and like the theatrics of it. So that's kind of like theatrics are like what kind of mainly appealed to me when I was younger.
Gotcha.
And I also, you know, I was also a big fan of Owl City. That was like listening to like clouds and rainbows like in my head.
Yeah.
Even though he's like very Christian, I always just didn't listen to those songs. It was always the ones about like being at the beach or in the woods talking to plants or some shit like that. I love like fantasy things. And and then I don't think I really got into anything that interesting until Will Wood and the Tapeworms. I mean, I had a friend who was interested in weirder stuff, introduced me to Mr. Bungle, and I listened to it sometimes, but didn't really catch my ear until like post Will Wood and the Tapeworms, and I was like, oh, experimental rock. And I was like, oh, genre fusion, oh, weird stuff. And that was kind of like the bridge for me. That was kind of like I was like hearing colors finally and like flavors. And then I finally dipped my toes into like actual like experimental music, and it just felt like the world suddenly had colors again. And part of that was also like the stuff that John showed me when we first tried, like I was saying, like Arrigo Barnaby, Mothers of Invention. I really love Frank Zappa now. I don't know how I would have reacted if I listened to that when I was like a teenager. I probably would have been like, whatever. I hadn't taken acid yet, so I didn't get it.
You oh yeah. I mean, a lot of the music I end up listening to technically is just like going to shows.
Yeah.
That's hard to explain to someone who isn't like directly involved in making music in the guitar scene. But I'm like, no, I mean, like most of the time I'm just, you know, if I've heard a band in the last couple of weeks, it's probably because I was literally at the show and I just saw them. So.
That's how it is for me now. A lot of the times, like I spend a lot of time on like Rate Your Music, but like I get a lot of exposure to new music from like seeing live shows.
Yeah.
And And like when I was a teenager too, like a lot of the live music scene, even now in my area, is very like all the DIY stuff is just like punk or like indie rock kids that
Sure.
like really want to get like signed to a label. And so like my friends would always take me to like the punk shows, and I was just like, yeah, woohoo, like punk rock. And I was just, I don't know, it was never really my thing. Like I would wear like a leather jacket and come and drink beer and whatever. But it was just, I don't know. I never really rocked with it the same way. But like I liked the spirit of the people
Yeah.
at the time. It appealed to me in some ways because that was the kind of like the what the freaks and the rebels looked like during that time to me. Like that was my exposure to that, and then now I see like such a greater breadth of freaks and weirdos and rebels, and
For
yeah,
sure.
that's right.
Well, they're everywhere.
They are everywhere. But yeah, now I just like music.
Yeah, it is like, it is interesting how certain genres sort of get eternally passed down through generations, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's or like specifically rebellious things. Like I don't know. I'm not trying to make any commentary or anything, but like it's just it's just interesting that like someone's like, I'm a rebel, I'm doing this, and then they're like, okay, now you're younger than me, here, check this out. And then they're like, well, you're younger than me, okay, here, check us out. And then all of a sudden we're 60 years out from, you know, punk, the explosion of punk.
Mm-hmm.
And 60 years, 80, over 50 years maybe. And we're still doing it. People are still doing it. It's interesting.
I know, it's kind of just, I don't know, a lot of times it feels just like an aesthetic at this point.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are trying to keep it alive, quote unquote, like in the sense of like the spirit or whatever. But it's like, you know, like it's like, I don't know, do something else besides like 3-chord, like rock inspired songs or something. Like
just add to it. Add something to the conversation. You know, you take
Add
that
something.
and take it and then do something with it, you know?
yeah.
Be adding something, breaking it down. Yeah. I feel like, I mean, obviously people do it. It was just like you said, there's just like a lot of bands that are still dreaming of that paycheck, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you have any artistic projects on the horizon?
Well, I mentioned that I was trying to work on a solo thing.
Yes.
I don't know how I would even describe that. It could probably be anything. It's gonna have humor, attitude, it's gonna be stupid, it's gonna be, I don't know, maybe it'll just be like a straightforward blues album, who knows.
That would be crazy.
I have like ideas written down like all over the place, like just like scrawled like in like these like, I imagine my phone notes app like kind of like a conspiracy board of like things that are like kind of related. Not entirely, maybe I could find a way to connect them.
I don't know
And
that.
just,
I don't know that I believe you could do a straight blues album with the entire album. I don't think you're capable of it, to be honest with you. And I don't know whether that's a compliment or an insult either. I don't.
I know, I feel like my brain just goes to too many different places. I don't think I could do something that straightforward unless it was like comedy, like just one track.
Yeah, I can see a track or two.
I feel like I could never do anything straightforward. It's always like a little sprinkle of something. It's always just like a bunch of spices. Like
Yeah.
there's no just straight up garlic salt. It's like you gotta have the tar and the paprika and the.
If you released an album, and it was just 12 songs and it sounded exactly like B.B. King, I would be dumbfounded by that. And again, I don't know whether I would be impressed or revolted by it either.
I think a really funny concept would be to like, you know, like music theory classes, like where they like, I don't know, I feel like blues is like the first thing they try to teach you, like when you learn like any instrument. And like, so if I just took like the really beginner like blues lessons and made like a really rudimentary like beginner blues album, like I think that would be really funny. Like
you'd have
like
to
it just
solo.
sounds like
You have to have a guitar solo, you know. You have to sound like yeah. That would be something.
Let's just market it as like a learn with me, like play along to the blues
Play
album.
along. Phoenix plays the blues. That would be that would be a fucking wild DIY project if you like had like a little like a booklet like they release at like Matt McFadden music or whatever, and you go there and it's just like each of your songs on staffs and like play blues with Phoenix.
That would be such a funny project. I print out like a little booklet. Like...
Exactly. That would
Giving me
that would be amazing. Okay. Okay. So this is kind of a funny question to ask you at this point, but is there anything in particular you'd like to promote?
I don't even have anything to promote aside from Giant Enemy Cancer Cult. It's like the biggest project I have. Everything else is like in a dusty warehouse, like slowly being cooked up by like a witch in front of a cauldron. I could promote my friend's music, but Cancer Cult, I guess. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess that's all I got right now. But we're performing in the middle of nowhere on Saturday. If anyone wants to show out to the Catskill Mountains.
Are you gonna give? Are you gonna give like a longitude and longitude or something?
Yeah, I'll put the coordinates out there for anyone. It's funny. We're having like a slumber party, like pajama jamboree show. So it's gonna be like pillow fights and like lesbian like pillow fights and lingerie, I think.
All
so
right.
it would be a good vibe.
That sounds fun.
I think I'm gonna be playing at my friend's place in Long Island. That's so fucking far away. On like the 21st, Cancer Cult is allegedly going to play. John has like Lyme's disease, so I don't know if he's coming. But either way, I would like. Yeah, he got fucking. When we were in Arkansas, he went to this metal festival to do a documentary, and then he comes back to our friend's place, and like 3 days later, he's like, "I just found a tick in my butt cheek," and he's like, "I think it's been there for like 3 days." And then so I just talked to him recently, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been on antibiotics for 6 weeks, and I think the Lyme's is finally gone, but I have all these fucked up symptoms." So I'm like, "Holy shit,
crazy!"
So I don't know if he's coming to that, but I will certainly be there, and I will play regardless. I think a Phoenix solo show is necessary, rare. Sorry to John for having Lyme's disease.
I used to be so afraid of that disease when I was a kid because it's from Connecticut, where I was born. Lyme disease was like discovered in Connecticut. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It was discovered in Old Lyme, Connecticut. That's why they call it Lyme disease.
Oh shit! I was wondering why they called it that.
Yeah, and fucking. They would be like really severely like, if you get a tick, you gotta, they just spooked the hell out of us when we were kids. So that's crazy that you got it. So last question: is there anything that you were not asked about that you had in mind to talk about, and if so, go for it.
Oh man, I don't even know. I kind of expected to be asked about my creative process, but I don't know. I feel like it's just really self-evident that I'm like very improvisational in like everything I do. I took a class at school Yeah, there was a class I was in. It was called like Experiments Across Media, and it was basically like multimedia improvisational composition where like I don't know. She would just like she would come in every day and be like, "Oh, I had a lesson plan, but I don't know, I just threw that out pretty much." And she would just come in with like random stuff, or like just tell us to do like she would just have like random conversations with us, and then she'd pick like a random phrase or like something she saw, or like just have us do random things, and then she'd be like, "Okay, now I want you to like repeat this part in partners," or like, "Okay, I want you to respond to it in this medium or like in any medium, and then you come up with a dance." And then you're going to draw a picture of how it made you feel. But then I want you to rip up the picture and then you're going to do a song about like, it was like that. Like, so it was interesting because it was all very improvisational, but I also have like kind of this like sort of ingrained thought about like needing to like pre-plan everything beforehand and have like these like ginormous, like thought out concepts for everything, which is like totally like not feasible and not how my brain works. So there was like this never-ending conflict between that and like the actual like impulse, because the class it was called like Experiments Across Media, like impulse, imagination, invention, or some another I word like that, something like that. And so the whole thing was just about like doing things like on the spot, like without thinking about it. And so I don't know, it really made me think a lot about my creative process and like just being able to like I guess kind of the purpose was to just like generate material without like thinking about whether it was good enough.
Yeah.
And so like, and then you looking back on the material and like developing it more, and that's how you come up with a concept. And instead of just trying to come at things like, I need this whole forest picture already, like I need to know all of the animals and the microorganisms and all the biomes and everything. And you just walk in and you just kind of see the tree, and you explore the leaf, and then you find out what's eating the leaf, and then you look at where else it goes and what is eating the thing that eats the leaf. It's just kind of like a chain of events.
Yeah.
And it was kind of we had this really cool TA for that class who like played music for us all the time, and every now and then our professor would just kind of be like, okay, he's going to teach the class today, I'm not being here, I'm not going to be there. And so he would do these like, he would bring in like these like Harry Parch instrument replicas that he built himself, and like talk to us about like Deleuze.
Crazy.
He was so cool. And the one day he was talking to us about the rhizome, and like, I'm familiar with the rhizome, me and the rhizome go way back.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the way he described it was kind of in a way I'd never heard before, where he's talking about you're interfacing with these ideas in this rhizomatic way, but then the tree, or like whatever plant grows out of it, is like kind of like the idea. Like that's kind of like the thing that you like, it's like the systematic structure that you develop after navigating the rhizome.
Gotcha.
And so I've been kind of trying to implement that more in like just doing things without thinking too hard about it, without having to be like some kind of grand idea. And so I guess that's kind of been one of my like micro projects, is just kind of have like a little daily thing where I like just like create without thinking about it too hard. Like just pick something, just spend a little bit of time thinking about something, improvise somewhere, and then after a little while you kind of look back at what you got, and you kind of review in your mind what's been on my mind, like where's my mind been going, and then you kind of take it from there. So I don't know, it's also kind of like advice, I guess. Creative advice.
Yeah, it's
so
good.
Like easy to share.
For sure. Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got right now.
Well, that's more than enough. We're doing good.
Awesome.
All right. So I am gonna need some photographs from you at some point.
What?
Well, preferably of you performing.
Okay.
But also of your work, if you have any like pictures of your paintings or collages.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I also, the pictures of me performing are a little few and far between, but I know where they are. I know where to find them. I know where they live.
Also, if there's a particular, any pictures, parentheses S, just of yourself that you like in particular, that those would work too.
Okay.
Yep. So, like I said, this will be in the transcripted version will be in the August 1st edition of Issues, and then sometime in August I'll release the audio version as well, and I'll tag you both times.
I can't wait to hear my own voice back.
It's good. It's a good voice.
Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to do this.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out to me. I was so excited, but also like anxious because I'm like phone call shy sometimes.
Yeah.
But I was like, yes.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, you have a good night.
You too, Ryan. I'm gonna keep looking for jobs.
Hell yeah.
And maybe work on something in like 10 minutes.
Sweet. Best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.